Sydney and Melbourne. It's Full Disclosure, the Jono and Dorj podcast. Jono and Dorj, full disclosure in the raw. Jono and Dorj, full disclosure, no holds barred. No holds barred.
Jono Burns, how's things in Melbourne?
It's good, mate. I haven't been in Melbourne much. I've been on the Gold Coast.
Why?
You may ask. And Honeybabe's cousin's wedding. 6 a.m. on the beach. It was 6 a.m. on the beach.
The wedding was 6 a.m. on the beach?
Yeah.
Why was there a wedding at 6 a.m. on the beach?
Fuck knows. Because it made sense for the photos. It was beautiful. I was a little bit of a Grinch about it, but there was... You get the beach to yourself and you get the beautiful sunset. Plus, on the Gold Coast, from about 8 o'clock in the morning till about 9 o'clock at night, it's just Squinsville. You can't even... It's so glary. You're just walking around, just squinting.
And it's Ange's cousin, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Ange being your partner.
Full disclosure.
Yes, full disclosure. So they chose 6 a.m, you think, for the photos?
Well, and no, I know why they did, actually. Full disclosure, it's because it's their favourite part of the day, and so they wanted to inflict it on everyone
Selfish bastards. Fucking selfish pricks. It's their favourite, but once their favourite part of the day was 3 a.m. Do they expect everyone to rock up at 3 a.m?
Hello to Paco and Beck if you're listening. I think, yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as picking the grand final or New Year's Eve or something. It's just
true.
The same. It was a bit weird, though, because then we all popped champagne, or full disclosure, the Italian version, and, people were pretty merry, and then one of his likely kind of joy boy mates called Miko was making cheeky van espresso martinis. Mm-hmm. That's a malapropism. Do you say espresso or espresso?
It's espresso, isn't it? Yeah, it's espresso.
Yeah, it is. I say espresso because I don't know. It sounds right.
No, it's definitely wrong. I guess it does make you quicker, the actual drink. So there's an express nature. It's a accelerant. So you're probably onto something there. But apart from that, it's completely and utterly wrong.
So people were charging by about 8:30 after a couple of, what are the Italian ones called? Whatever that one's called. The Italian bubbly.
Prosecco. Are you trying to avoid it because you didn't want to cross-promote Prosecco? I didn't understand what you were doing.
No, I don't want to. I think they get enough marketing.
Enough plugs, yeah.
Enough plugs.
What if your favourite part of the year is Christmas, and then you just decide you have your wedding on Christmas? I mean, where do you draw the line with we just do whatever we want because we like it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It is your wedding, though. Like, you are allowed to do what you want on your wedding.
I suppose. Do they expect you? But they expect you to pay. You expect you to make a donation as well, don't they?
They literally... I didn't give them anything. They literally drew a line in the sand. Yeah, we had to be there before the bride. But it was lovely. It was.
On that note, full disclosure, weddings, always a great subject matter. Have you ever been the shonky person? Because they don't check to see if you do give money in those wishing wells and stuff like that. And you can just...
There was a wishing well. There was a wishing well.
And, there's always a suspicion that they're watching to see whether you go in, but you can just walk past it and things like that and make it look like you've done something, but you can,
throw some chewing gum in there. Like, you just hang around there. Or you could take stuff out of there if you're a real dirtbag.
You're a real dirtbag. Because a lot of people argue that there's no parity, because a lot of people these days aren't planning on getting married. So where does it work? If you're giving money to these people left, right and centre, but you're not planning on getting married yourself, there's no kickback, apart from the fact, obviously, you get a free party. I guess the counter-argument is you're getting a free party.
Yeah, you get a party.
Which you fly to. You pay yourself to fly to most of the time, and it's at...
Get up at 5:30.
5:30. You're basically a rent-a-crowd. You're essentially a rent-a-crowd in many ways.
Or mate, you're their loved ones who they love very much, and they want you to share their special day.
That's true.
Column A, column B.
Okay, we'll move...
If it's Jeffrey...
Go on.
Yes.
I've got a call from my agent. I've got to take this, but I'll call... So, one sec. Raw. See you, buddy. Bye. Yeah, I worked it like a pro. All right, so...
Jeez, mate. That's happened a couple of times on Full Disclosure. You've got a call from... How often are you getting calls from your agent? Your career's going a lot better than mine.
But that's my voiceover agent. So I have bookings almost every day for voice. So I get a call. And they have to...
We've been listening to you a lot on SBS because we've been watching The Handmaid's Tale. You're all over it. Dorj just got a call from his agent and he answered it with such casualness that just makes me seethe, because I get a call from my agent probably once an annual year or something. An annual year, that's a tautology, but yeah, a couple of times a year at the moment. Yes. George is just cracking, wisecracking. You're very much, you're in the power dynamic there. You're in the, they're working for you.
It wasn't always that way, but I have brought in some work to them. So, it's a bit of your scratch. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. But yeah, it's definitely got better. And I think, I've only been with this particular agent for a short period of time, but we've got a rapport now, which is great. I encourage everyone in a professional sphere to build a rapport with your workmates, and things will get a lot better.
Really happy for you, mate. It's good you're going so well. But yeah, you're talking about rent-a-crowd for
weddings.
And also, can you just can you on the podcast go, I must take this. It's my agent. Don't become a guy that you and I both know, who might have represented you in Perth and who I did a play with, who
you mean Adam Gilraney? You mean Adam Gilraney? Yes.
I did a three-hander with him, and every time his phone would go off like 16 times rehearsal. He goes, "Got to take this, boys. It's my voiceover agent. I have to take this. It pays a lot of money."
Did it really ring that much? Did you really get that many calls?
Never heard it. I think it was just him going, "Sorry, boys. I have to take this. I'm kind of a big deal." I think he worked for ABC. He did ABC.
Oh, did he? He was famous because he had an agency in Perth, and he signed me when I was very young, straight out of high school, 16, 17, and he had all these books, and then he started putting himself up for stuff when he was an agent. He started taking jobs from his actors on his books, and then I think there was a bit of an uprising. The pitchforks were out, and he just got up and ran to Melbourne.
Melbourne. Yeah. That's where I crossed paths with him. Nice guy. You would crap on.
Yeah.
Like he'd want to engage you in conversation just before you were walking on stage. You're in the wings, and you go, Jono. He read The New Scientist or something like that, and the worst one that he ever did was I think he farted, and it was gross. It was like off stage he farted, like, oh, and he goes, that fart could have had embers of Cleopatra in it, boys. And we're like, cool story, man. Did you hear that crow?
Why is he? What's the embers of Cleopatra reference?
Well, it was a New Scientist kind of thing where apparently like farts share the same DNA from thousands of years. Yeah, it was pretty. It was a long bow. But yeah, sorry. Back to
the other thing about Adam Gilraney, apart from his Cleopatra like farts, is I forgot he was dating a girl, a Whopper grad. A new Whopper grad was his girlfriend as well. So not only did he sign all these people, he'd gone romantically inclined, and the amount of conflicts of interest this guy had were just off the chain. And he used to rock famously a bit Ian McKellen like. I can say that. Famous for rolling joints. And can I say that? Probably can't say that, can I? Anyway.
I think you can say that because I've got a personal story about having a joint.
Okay, great. So does many young men from around Australia. He was a bit of a raconteur with the big fat spliffs. Look, he was a nice guy, but he just professionalism probably wasn't his forte. I wouldn't have thought. And apparently made a lot of money from voiceovers. I knew him as he used to wear a lot of turtlenecks as well, which was an interesting look and very very hip for the early 40-something-year-old male in Perth in about 1993, the turtleneck look, which brings us nicely back into the theme for today. Today we've got a theme. It's called the Back to School episode.
Don't you remember the days of the old school quadrangle? We used to laugh quite a bit. Oh, don't you remember the days of the old school oval or quadrangle or something like that?
Where I thought we could reminisce about some of the things that happened in, what's quite a long time ago now, and not many people will be familiar with this. I think it's quite interesting. What was it like being at school in the 80s and early 90s? I just wanted to throw it over to you, Jono, to share some of your experiences. I remember what brought me to this, actually, was thinking about lunchtimes with a friend and reminiscing about the fact my mother used to pack these... I was obviously quite poor because I used to open my school bag and I'd have a 3-litre ice cream bucket as my lunchbox. She would conserve and wash 3-litre ice cream buckets after they'd been used for dessert, and that would be my lunchbox. I think I wouldn't say poor, but thrifty. And inside she put a little freezy, those little blue freezy packs you get in the freezer, and I'd have a juice box next to it, nice and cold, and then 3 rounds of sandwiches and a muesli bar, and that would be generally my
3 rounds of sandwiches.
Yeah, that was a controversial thing. Sam used to marvel about that. It was 3 rounds, and that was pretty consistent. I think I moved up from 2 rounds to 3 rounds in about year 8 or 9. But in primary school, it was 2 rounds, and they'd be cut diagonally, and they'd be generally always wholemeal bread, quite healthy. But there was no trading.
What was in them?
My mother would insist on alfalfa quite a lot, which I was never really...
Just alfalfa?
No, that was one of the things in there.
No wonder you needed a lot of sandwiches.
I wasn't a fan of... She put beetroot in there. Sometimes I get a bit of tomato. Generally... this is the other thing I should tell you is I was told I had to make my own sandwiches from the age of 12 and a half to 13 onwards. So I'd get up in the morning and I sort of transitioned from what my mother had started and when she taught me. So yeah, tomatoes, and then we'd have things like salami or silverside, tomatoes, lettuce, a little tiny bit of cheese, but generally alfalfa. You know, they were quite healthy sandwiches, I think. But I just remember that I think it's quite odd now when I look at it that I had a 3-litre ice cream box as my lunchbox. Is not particularly advanced. I wouldn't have thought. Did you?
I used to have a gift pack from David Jones with some beluga caviar, a little flute of champagne.
No holds barred.
Yes, because we should. This is the interesting thing. They're quite different backgrounds. I went to 7 or 8 different primary schools all around Australia. Shout out to Carlingford West. Shout out to Portland Primary School. Shout out to Richmond Primary. Shout out to Spittal Alternative School. Shout out to Kubalat Primary. Shout out to Southwell Primary School. You know, I went to quite a few different primary schools all around Australia, and it meant that I had a relatively
kept getting kicked out. Kept getting expelled.
I'd average about 6 months to a year at most schools.
Yeah. You'd light something on fire and you'd be off.
No, it wasn't anything like that. It's because my stepfather was an engineer and we were just trying to find a suitable place. So a bit of time in Sydney, a bit of time in Melbourne, a bit of time in Australia. Oh, shout out to Avonvale in Northam as well. Yeah, quite a few.
Engineer sounds like a hearing aid.
Why does it sound like a hearing aid?
It's an engineer.
Oh, I see. Yep. Yeah. Which makes a sound engineer even more interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Sound engineer. Yeah.
Language. It's beautiful.
It's a wonderful thing. How many primary schools did you go to, John?
2. I went to Williamstown Primary, which was very seminal for me, where I was a bit of a big fish. It wasn't a small pond, but I was. You were
the leader of the gang.
I was the leader of a gang. Yeah, I had a great time there. But then, because my dad didn't think I was smart enough to get into Melbourne Grammar because there was an exam, he put me into their junior school in grade 6, and that was very traumatic for me.
Yes,
Grimwade.
That was the famous jump Jew time. If
Jump
I'm not
Jew. Jew jump.
Yeah. Well,
they used to. Yeah, it was jump Jew. They used to line up all the Jews, which is just me, and they used to jump over me, like Evil Knievel style on their bikes.
Well,
but, you don't hear me whinging. You don't hear me whinging. I just got on with it.
Oh yeah, you hardened up, did you, mate? You complaining about getting brutalised in the bush.
That's right. You know, you just copped your jumpings. But that was terrible because I didn't. It was so multicultural, Williamstown Primary. But then going to this junior Melbourne Grammar School, it was in Caulfield, which is that they call it the Bagel Belt in Melbourne. It is the most Jewish place. So we were surrounded by Jews.
I'm surrounded by Jews,
but there were no Jews at the school, and I guess their parents were anti-Semitic, so they all were just casually anti-Semitic, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What the fuck's going on here?" They used to throw like 20 cents in the air and yell out "Jew jump."
That's right. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
But a jump Jew sounds pretty good. Maybe sounds like a Jew, like Omar Caspi, the first Israeli NBA player, so a Jew that can jump.
Omar Caspi. Yes, one of the great Israeli basketball players, and there's been quite a few of them that have gone and played some serious ball.
That's the only one. That's the only one, I think.
Oh, that's the only one? Was it?
Yeah.
I thought you tried to claim a couple of the other ones, but you found out they weren't.
This will be an ongoing thing in full disclosure, because I've inherited it from my grandfather. He was so proud that he used to claim everyone as Jewish, even if they just had a tiny little... Anyone famous, he wanted as a Jew. So I am a bit obsessed with finding athletes that are Jewish. And apparently there's an NFL quarterback that's been... Well, not apparently. I think he was the second pick in the NFL draft, and he's Jewish.
Well, there was that famous occasion when you argued vehemently with me that Bruce Springsteen was Jewish.
You'd think he was. He's not, though.
You were really adamant and really upset when you found out that it wasn't the case.
I was so upset. I hate being wrong, but I also hate... him not being Jewish. That would have been huge. Bob Dylan What a triumvirate. Dylan, Cohen and Springsteen.
Who are your top 10 Jewish people of all time? And in sports and arts?
Sports and arts. Well, Bob Dylan, definitely.
Omar Caspary?
No, not even close. Sandy Koufax was an amazing pitcher for the LA Dodgers.
Oh, he's in there, is he?
He was such a good Jew that he missed a World Series game because it was on a holy day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who else you got?
Muhammad Ali, definitely one of the greats, all-time greats.
You're an idiot,
Kanye
mate.
West.
You're an absolute idiot.
Just my fact. The Wu-Tang Clan, I think that does it. That's 10.
Speaking of claiming people from different backgrounds, one of the reasons that I got onto schools in particular was going through a bit of nostalgia phase, and I was in bed with the lovely Georgina Dalton, my partner, the other day, and she said something, and went, couple of days. And she went, what? She said, what? And I go, beautiful, see you in a couple of days. And she went, what do you mean a couple of days? And I went...
You know that reference, though? Oh, you said that, or she said it?
I said it to Georgie, right?
Yeah,
and
there's no way she's going to get that.
She's like, what's that? I go, it's Con the Fruiterer. And she said, what? I said, it's Con the Fruiterer. And she goes, what's that? And I played it, and... it's shockingly racist.
He's still going though. He hasn't stopped because
he shouldn't be going. Well, the sketch.
He is still going.
The sketch that I selected, I clicked it on it. It's him going, we went to the beach and mula, suvla, kula, dula, fula. She goes in the water, and she can't swim. And she's drowning, And then the Aussie lifesaver, he comes and has to save her. The gag was that all the Wog daughters couldn't swim. That was the gag, because they were Wogs and they can't swim. And the good Aussie had to go and save them. It was so racist.
I think it's the delivery. It's the delivery. That's
no, mate. It's blackface. It's actually Greek blackface. He's got a monobrow. He's tanned his face up. It's shocking.
He's a lovable idiot. He was a lovable idiot. He's definitely still going because he just did... they're going to get a reference every time, but the Sweetest Plum have this... Hopefully we get this famous, George. They've got a listener that obviously has a bit of a connection to the industry, and every time they bag someone out, Ben Fordham is his name, and he goes and finds these people, and then they do a talk to camera and have a go at the Sweetest Plum. So they got Frankie J. Holden. Yeah,
Frankie J. Holden. Yeah, not a big fan of his, but yeah, go on.
He has a go at them, and they got Mark. Is it Mark Little? They got Frank. It's all on their website. They go, "G'day boys, say the Sweetest Plum, beautiful."
So bad.
So he was in his blackface.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, I was at poker with Damien on Sunday night. We had a poker night with some other chaps. And Damien, who has Greek background, said his dad pulled him aside because at that stage when he was at school, the comedy company was very big. It was Mike Mitchell and Kylie Mole had a sketch. Colin Carpenter,
legendary Colin Carpenter.
That's right, the pock-faced Carpenter. Damien was going to school and he came home and told his dad, and was doing a few impressions. And his dad said, you're never going to watch that program. They're making fun of us. They're teasing us. They're laughing at us. You're never going to watch that program. So you can see what sort of impact it had if you're actually an immigrant to this country and how it made them feel. Georgie was shocked that it even was ever a thing.
Where do you stand on Apu from The Simpsons? Because there's a big documentary out on about that.
That was brought up at the poker night. And I think that's something which is gradually... I think an animation isn't anywhere near as bad as painting a monobrow on your brow. Look, they've realised they're out of step, and I think they've gone down the right path. And it came down to the fact that Indian people.
The Simpsons haven't. The Simpsons haven't though. The Simpsons kind of went back at it.
No, they've addressed it now. He's not doing it anymore.
Oh, really? So it's gone from that because before that they actually addressed it in an episode.
Yeah, they got slammed for it.
Lisa did a talk to camera. Yeah, they got slammed.
They got slammed.
Did you do back-to-back poker? Big cat. Did you do Monday?
Back-to-back poker. Sunday, Monday. We had poker with the young guys and then poker with the older chaps. And I've got to say, it was a clear winner for me, and it was the older chaps. We're actually playing poker. The problem with the other guys is cigarette breaks outside. You lose 15, 20 minutes each time. The problem is you don't see each other enough, so you don't have that rapport. So it's a lot of like how you're doing, sort of perfunctory chat, and it wasn't really about the poker. And for me, I just want to win money. I don't really care about how anyone's doing.
But I think that's a poor attitude because you're going to get your poker fix the next night. So I hope you weren't getting too cranky with them.
I got pretty cranky.
Sticks and stones may break my bones. Oh, don't you remember the days of the old school quadrangle? We used to laugh a bit. Oh, don't you remember the days of the old school quadrangle or oval or whatever it was?
Okay, I went to the Gold Coast once when I was at school. and I went to the Gold Coast again on the weekend.
Was it for schoolies when you went to the Gold Coast?
Oh, I went to this. Yeah, I did. I went to Noosa for schoolies.
Yeah.
But let's talk about primary school.
Sure.
I actually was a reverse toolie. I went to schoolies when I was in grade 6 and picked up all the 18-year-old girls.
No, you didn't. That's a
No,
lie.
I definitely didn't. I was still a virgin. So I went to on the Gold Coast. There was some pretty funny. I guess. Well, I mean, it's just like in the 80s, and we on our way out, I had the microphone, and I put it because like when I travel with a microphone, I like to say that I'm a podcaster to people. And it was a public holiday in Queensland on Monday. And the guy that was there was like, oh, I was like, how's your day been? He goes, oh, you got a microphone, do you? I go, yeah, I'm a podcaster. He's like, oh, yeah, all right. I go, how are you going anyway? And he goes, oh, I can't complain. Who would listen anyway? And I go, well, it's, you're on holiday pay. You'd be on double. He goes, 2.5. But you don't get much money for that anyway. They get paid more at Hungry Jack's than we do. And that sounded like bullshit. And he also did complain. And then the next person, we got a 2-for-1. Honey Babe and I got... the explosives test, and I was trying to make small talk. She goes, 2 for 1, you too? And I go, 2.5 for 1. She goes, oh yeah, that's right. I'm getting on 2.5 pay money. And I said, so, it's pretty good. And it's raining today. And she goes, yeah, I was in bed this morning, but then I thought, I don't want to be a lazy bitch. So I got up and went for a walk on the beach. And yeah, it's pretty nice. It was like, cool. That's Queensland. You don't get that kind of chat from the people at Melbourne Airport.
Or Sydney. It's a smaller town mentality. It's nice. You do get that chat, and it is you do appreciate it when you're out of the two hubs. Sydney and Melbourne are very unsociable. People are too busy. They just can't be bothered, and they don't want to talk.
Yeah, and I actually I worked with a Captain Starlight that did that same job, and he said he got paid more than that. But maybe they get paid less than the Gold Coast.
You're still fixating on the pay.
I just don't like being lied to, George. And he complained. He complained twice.
So it's the security people that argue they get paid less than Hungry Jack's. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, I think that's bullshit, mate.
That's utter bullshit. Utter fucking bullshit. But, that's okay. They just want to have a whinge. And that's like that. But that's one thing people, when they do make small talk, one of your go-tos for a lot of people is a whinge. We all know that.
Well, because you're low status. Well, because you're low status, you're putting yourself
You're low
in
status. Yeah, I don't get paid. Mate, I get paid peanuts. But you know what? Life's okay. Through you go, you little fuck. It's like
I'm a lazy bitch. Yeah. Oh, and then here's the really full-on thing, George, was at the getting off Tiger. There was a guy trying to get on Tiger as we were all leaving. There was this guy arguing his way with his ticket, and didn't look good. And he had a teardrop, one of those teardrop tattoos.
Ooh, that means you've killed someone or raped someone in jail, they reckon.
I think it's killed someone, yeah. And I was like, just that's not going to go well. It never goes well. You can never argue your way onto a plane, especially with Tiger. They don't go for any of that nonsense. But I thought about putting a challenge down to you, because you're always up for fun challenges, to spend a week with like a fake tattoo of a teardrop and just see how people treat you differently. Excuse me, this coffee's not the coffee order. They're like, yeah, no worries. I think people treat you very differently with a teardrop.
Speaking of teardrops, I won't be trying that. But speaking of teardrops, when did you cry in front of anyone when you were in primary school or high school? Can you remember crying?
Yes. Well, I had a traumatic thing happen to me in primary school. My mum died when I was... Sorry to bring it... I'll keep it light. But when I was 10, and so that really changed my whole primary school. And so then, because I was a staunch kind of... Because it was my dad and my sister and I, and he was a very staunch old school guy. Like, we weren't really encouraged to unpack it at home. And so I used to cry whenever I saw a sad movie. And so like
in front of other kids?
Well, yeah, we watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids at school, and I cried when Auntie died, and people were like, "Jono's crying. Why are you crying, Jono?" I was like, "No." So like just little things like that would so I cried.
What's Auntie? Yeah. Is there an ant in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
Yeah, spoiler alert. They shrink and they get like a pet ant, and it fucking dies. It's pretty traumatic. It's kind of 101, like, you kill the trusty steed, like the horse in the Never-Ending Story. It's very much like that, actually. Haven't you seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
Oh, bits and pieces. It wasn't something that stood out. I thought it was we're a bit old for it when it came out, but we were right in the middle of our youth, were we?
Must have been. Well, we watched it on video at primary school, so it must have been.
Sure, you weren't 14 or something?
Well, it was at primary school, mate, so I'm pretty sure I wasn't at 14 in primary school. And my mum died, so fucking have some respect.
Sorry.
I cried on that, and I just cried in all those kind of movies. Yeah, so that's... But I don't think I cried.
What about in high school? Can you remember, did you ever cry in high school? Like that's bigger, you know?
Yes.
Okay. Was it a result of bullying or something, or what happened?
I don't want to talk about it.
It was linked to trauma again, I assume?
Yeah, it was. It fucking was. It was... this is my full disclosure, I guess. I think it was like in year 8 or year 9, we went on a school camp, and there was kind of like an alpha in our year level. But I was a little bit alpha. Like I was... You know, like always had a bit of a gang kind of like, you know, like didn't back down from people and just had a bit of confidence as a high school kid. But this guy was clearly a bit more kind of rough than me. But because I came from Williamstown, I did have like a little bit of, I thought that all these private school kids were a bit soft. And so I did kind of carry myself a little bit like I was a bit tougher. But this guy was also a short ass like me, but was a bit mean. And I was actually having a go at him, and I think I was teasing him. Like I was bullying him, I guess. I was bullying him by teasing him. And he snapped at me and said, at least I don't cry because my mum died or something like that. And I fucking full like Spider-Man, like hold me back. Like you know, everyone was holding me back. And I was like trying to kill him and getting, you know, like crying and punching and like getting held back. It was really intense. And then I was so stubborn that I didn't talk to the guy for 4 years.
I can imagine that, yeah.
Yeah, but it got to the point where it stunted me socially because he was a super popular guy and I was really good friends with his sister. And then finally, like he tried to apologize to me so many times throughout the years and I ignored him. Like it was like very, very stubborn behavior. And I'd go all red when he like tried to bring it up. And then, like it just went on too long. And then in year 11 or 12 or something, I remember I just walked up to him and just asked how he went on the weekend in his rugby match. And that was kind of like the end of it. But it was like it was too much. Like I should have, it was my Taurian side. Like it was a really stupid thing for him to say, but he felt terrible about it and did try and apologize a lot of times. And and I'm friends with him now.
You mentioned Spider-Man. My disclosure is quite similar. Well, nowhere near as heavy as yours, but it was very embarrassing for me. I was in year 8 at theatre arts because I went to a performing arts school, and we had to wear tracksuit pants because we had a tracksuit that we had to wear, a theatre arts tracksuit. Even the rest of the school could wear whatever they wanted as long as it was blue and white. So we looked like real idiots. Anyway, so there's a girl that I quite liked, thought was quite pretty, called Kelly Vidovich. I'm going to use her real name. Kelly Vidovich is there, and I was sort of talking to her, trying to look cool. And this guy, Daniel Robe, who was later is now a very good friend, he dacked me in front of Kelly Vidovich as I was talking to her, and I had Spider-Man undies on. And I think I'm not sure if it's true, but I'd only gone to the bathroom quite recently before, so I thought there could have been a bit of whittle in the front of the pants. So I was very embarrassed, and I quickly pulled them up and tried to save it by sort of jogging up and down the spot and making a funny sort of John Cleese-esque expression, but I actually ran straight into the toilets afterwards and I just cried for quite some time. And I remember there was a book, it was very bookish, and I pulled it out and I just looked at the book crying, and I remember looking down afterwards and the book was just covered in, like it was the whole book was wet from tears. That's how upset I was about being dacked in front of Kelly Vidovich. So, and the embarrassment of my white Spider-Man underpants that might have been slightly soiled. So yeah, it was that was the first time, I can distinctly remember that was the first time I cried at high school, and it was very early on because it's very daunting when you first move to a bigger school. And you said you went even before that when you moved to grammar from Williamstown, but it's, you know, there's a whole new social group and you've got to reprove yourself after working so hard to find a niche. And that's why I think it's quite lucky for both of us that we just had the one high school really once we're in, because it allows you to make a really solid friendship group.
And my first friends at Grimwade were like the total nerds. Like they came bearing gifts on the first day, and I feel terrible. I just dropped them like kind of probably 2 months in.
Yeah.
And then, it was always awkward, seeing them around.
Yeah,
Like,
the change in group. I also had another piss story. I was in a debating group, and I had a crush. And it's always you have crushes on girls when you're a teen. I had this crush on this girl, or not necessarily girls, crushes on somebody. And there was this girl called Jill Hunter I'm using names here. Jill Hunter I was very attracted to, and I went to the bathroom I was in debating classes. You can imagine it's quite nerdy. This is extracurricular, of course. And I went to the bathroom, and because my shirt was so big, I pissed on my shirt. Like the bottom fell down in front of me, and then I had to go back into the debating class. So the only thing I could do is wring it, like I wrung the piss out of it, and then sort of put it into a knot and sort of like a little bit like a midriff top, and went back into the room and sort of hid it, the ringed, and it still stunk like piss, like under the table as I was still doing the debating class. And thankfully no one said anything, but I'm sure they would have been aware.
What number were you? What speaker were you?
I was second speaker. Yeah,
I was the hardest one.
That was my favourite because you get a little bit of rebuttal, but then you also get to use your constructed speech. We actually won numerous times. Our school won the public school debating
numerous
comps.
times. 2 out of 100.
No. Every year. I used to write championship debater on my resumes because we won.
That's what I write podcaster, so I guess we can. Because I teach at a primary school, and we've got debating at the moment. They do debating. I would like to watch them do that. And we've got school camp coming up, George. Tomorrow I'm going on school camp, so I'll be able to report back on that next one. Do you remember any school camps apart from obviously Outward Bound?
Yes, so we some great school camps. We used to go to Rottnest Island, which later turned out to be a mass Aboriginal burial camp. We didn't know that was at the time, but Rottnest Island, great times with my alternative school. I used to hit that up, and some very, very happy memories. And then I was very lucky because of the extracurricular stuff. I got lots of camps. I got a down south Margaret River camp for social studies, Japan, and we did a tour of Japan with my concert band that I was in high school, and I did a tour of Australia with my theatre arts group as well. So I was pretty spoiled on the camp front, really.
A lot of nice camps. Well, this camp that I'm taking these guys, it's luckily I complained to the principal, and one of the kids isn't going, but it's a bit like Con Air. It's like the worst of the worst, just like shit 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds for 2 nights. So I'm not excited about it. They've a lot of authoritarian behaviour. So it's going to be me just back again, Nicolas Caging it.
Nicolas Caging it, getting the belligerent Burns out. Well, then I guess it's obvious that on the note of Jono wielding the cudgel at school camp, it's only appropriate we go to belligerent Burns.
Shh. If you want to talk in a movie,
this is taking too long.
This is taking too long.
No! This is a terrible manners. Terrible manners.
It's not funny.
Them bad
anymore.
It's belligerent Burns with It's an Outrage.
So I've been watching a lot of NBA basketball because it's the playoffs now, and unfortunately my internet speed's not fast enough, and I get the wheel of death every time I'm trying to load a game. It's so frustrating, and I've been talking to Optus a lot. I've been calling up Optus a lot, and it's very hard to get onto Optus because once they had an hour wait for Optus, once they say 10-minute wait. And they give you an option for them to call you back, which is, it's much better than listening to the shit music that they have on. So I've been doing that, but lo and behold, they don't call you back. So then you've lost not only those 10 minutes or 1 hour that you've waited for the callback, then you call again and you listen to the shit music, and then you get onto someone, and they're lovely. They're from the Philippines, and they couldn't be more apologetic, which makes you feel really shit about yourself. So then you're basically looking at the face of privilege in the shame mirror as they repeat back to your problems. I'm so sorry, Mr. Jonathan. I'm so sorry that you had to wait 10 minutes to watch your NBA basketball game in your tracksuit pants and no top while drinking a milkshake. But they don't fucking help either. That's the problem. They tell you to do the speed test, and then you get sidetracked yourself with your own kind of like belligerence, and you're asked to speak to their manager, and then you have to wait another hour or half an hour, and then they don't call you back again. So then you put complaints in. So then you kind of lose track of trying to fix your computer, and more you're in a kind of Kafka-esque death wheel of Optus, where they're just trying to wear you down so you don't actually get your complaint in. And I finally spoke to a really nice guy called Sam, who called me back 2 days later, but they just repeat back to you, or you've probably had it as well. It just makes you feel shit. It makes you feel shit. You don't want to lose your temper at these people in the Philippines. You do, and they've actually sent me a new modem, but it's not better. So that's my belligerent burns.
Yes, it's frustrating, and I have lost my temper numerous times. I finally got the internet connected here, but I ended up getting, on the plus side, it's something you could ask for, John. I ended up getting credited about $160 towards my internet for the next 3 or 4 months.
Really?
Yeah, I just pointed out the lost revenue, that I expect some compensation, and then as a result, we won't be paying for the internet here for about 2 or 3 months. So,
good job.
Yeah, I think if you're not sure, if they're not fixing it, then you can at least say that they're wasting your time. And the problems, if you construct some issues that you point out to them in terms of your business and your life, and maybe
I've
the
been
fact
honest.
you're a
I've said I
podcaster.
just want to watch, but I've been honest. I've just said I want to watch basketball. I've been honest since day one.
Well, yeah, we all know where that gets you. But
really sorry, Mr. Jonathan. I can understand you want to watch your game.
Hello,
of
Mr.
basketball.
Jonathan. What is your concern for today? I'm sorry, Mr. Jonathan. There's nothing we can do about that now, but I can look into the guide and send you maybe another modem. Have you checked to see if it's on? Have you reset the modem? Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
it gets like that, doesn't it? It's very
Finally,
hard.
I got one that Sam, the guy that called me back, he actually tried hardball with me because I reckon he would have seen in the notes just how many times I'd called and just thought I'm a really difficult person. So he was standing up for his team and he was being a little bit belligerent back, and I kind of liked that. And then he finally said, "Look, listen, I believe you. I believe you, Mr. Jonathan. I don't think you would have called this many times if your internet actually worked." It's like, what the fuck?
Maybe
But they make you feel like you're crazy. They make you feel like it's your computer or it's your... Yeah, it's just... Because then I was watching it on the Gold Coast. It was fine.
You aren't the most technically minded person. There
No,
is
I'm
that
not.
concern.
So I questioned myself. You'd be great at it. And that's the thing. But you would want more money an hour than what they get paid. What do you reckon they get paid?
They get paid so little. So little. If I was going to guess, I was going to get paid something like $2.50 an hour, $3 an hour, I guess.
So a little bit less than they get paid at the Gold Coast airport for checking bags.
Less than Hungry Jacks. That was great. Great belligerent burns, and I think it's something we can all relate to because recently in a document on the AFR it claimed there was about 3 million Australians that were complaining about telecommunications, and that's obviously with the NBN as well. So you're not alone. That's one thing I've been gaining great sustenance
I've
from.
been trying to watch the NBA though.
Yeah, that's really annoying for you. I'm very happy with my internet now. It's taken a while, but we're there.
Oh, that's great.
Which is great for the podcast as well.
Did you listen to many podcasts when you were at primary school, George?
You mean radio?
No, I was just trying to get it back in.
Well, I didn't know. That podcast, that's tie-in because radio. Yeah, I was a big radio
Radio,
fan.
it's not.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
what did you
radio
listen to?
plays. I was a big radio play fan. I used to listen to a lot of the Goon Show, the great English comedy featuring Spike Milligan and Peter Sellers and Harry Seacombe. And I was really into that early high school. But yeah, I was a massive radio play man. So much so that I hired out the scripts and I used to run sessions with my friends where we used to read along to these radio plays. So yeah,
Go on,
huge
give
fan.
us your best. Give us a couple of characters from the...
Ooh, blue bottle, no. I don't think I'll do that. Ooh.
It was all that kind of thing, you know.
It's very good. And who are some of the other ones?
Well, I'm not going to do all of them. But the point is, I will go further with this.
Dad used to make me listen to them in the car as well.
Right, so I used to like them so much that I started putting tapes together, and I used to play clarinet at the time. I'd do radio plays with tapes with my little TIAC ghetto blaster and my clarinet, and I used to give these tapes to friends at school in primary school. So it shows you how clear it was, or how connected that is to what I do now. You can see some sort of a path being laid down there from
Don't
a
you
young
wish
age.
we started this like 5 years ago, though? Imagine if we started this 5 years
Keep
ago.
it light, keep it positive. What's wrong with you?
I've been listening to a few podcasts out there, and they're not that good, and they get heaps and heaps of listeners, and it's just because they were early.
Possibly, yes, but but things change over time. Speaking of change, have you seen anything that you quite like in the film and theatre world of late?
Well, I've been watching The Handmaid's Tale, the second season, of The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, you're on
And
the
that's
second
what I
season.
think-
You're on the current one. I was worried there for a second we're going to go back to one of your traditional reviews of maybe the first episode of the series, but you're up to date.
Yeah, well, I'm one episode off. It's not as the second series. It's. I feel a problem I have with modern television is I'm always quite aware of when they're just stretching it out. Like, I think it's there's a problem. You've got to be a real artist not to stretch it out. because it's revenue. You're making money. Like, you've got to be a real kind of Ricky Gervais or Basil. Oh, not Basil Fawlty. What's his name? John Cleese or David Simon, where you're like, no, that's how many episodes it is. Because I just feel like there's flashbacks and a few episodes that are just like, that's just a waste of time. Like, you didn't need to be telling us all that. But it's fucking good. It's what they call world building, George.
What's that?
What didn't really happen. They're just building it all there on screen for you. It's very imaginative.
that makes sense. Yeah, it's a world building. Well, isn't a large majority of what we watch world building? I suppose it's more so. It's closer aligned to fantasy and sci-fi in many ways, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to do, though, than just to go set it in, 20 years ago or 20 years in the future. Or 20 years in the future is world building to a degree. But no, it's pretty out there. They are building a lot. It's cool. It's really good. Have you watched most of it?
I have watched bits and pieces with Georgina, who very much enjoys it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's people love the book, but I think it's one of those ones where they're taking a bit of liberty with the book in order to make it longer.
I've been watching more like Schwarzenegger remakes and stuff like that. I actually got Georgia to watch Predator with me. Did I tell you that? She was not impressed. She thought it was a real stinking pile of shit.
Oh, really? Doesn't like. What did you think?
It wasn't as good as I remember. That's unfortunate. Some of the films you remember being fantastic. This would have been a high school film. How old were we when Predator came out?
Give me your lunch money. Give me your lunch money.
Oh, don't you remember the days of the old school quadrangle we used to laugh a bit? Oh, don't you remember the days of the old school quadrangle or oval or whatever it was?
George, I'm having a flashback. Primary school. I was primary school when I saw that too, at Simon Gadd's place. Simon Gadd had a cooler older brother. I think he was probably about 14 or 15. And he was that classic brother that was like, oh, go away, dickheads. And we're like, oh. And he was super cool. He was like, would have been 15 or something, but we thought he was so cool. He'd like slam his door, get out of here, dickheads. And he had Predator, and we watched Predator, and we were watching, and it was awesome. It's like bit where he's walking through. You watched it recently, where he's like, if it bleeds, you can kill it. He's walking through, and up until like 5 years ago, I thought Happy Little Vegemite song was playing during that, because obviously the next door neighbor had their TV going and it was like, we're happy little Vegemites. And I thought that was actually the background soundtrack up until 5 years ago. That's how gullible I was.
You thought an Australian track was in Predator?
Yeah, I was terrified. I didn't really think it through.
You were obviously not the most. We weren't the brightest little child, really. No wonder your dad was worried about you getting into the school.
Yeah. Yeah, probably is.
No, it shouldn't be mean. It's believable. It's believable that something like, because it would have sounded tinny and off in the distance, so you can imagine it being part of the soundtrack or something at the time. I
mean, it did seem strange to me at the time why that would be going on. But yeah, I loved that film. I watched as a primary school kid, I watched all the Van Damme films and all the Bloodsport and all those kind of ones, and all the Schwarzenegger. I was right into it.
Yeah, during that time, kids are very gullible. During that time, I was in Oliver the Musical in Year 8 with some friends, Sam and Matt. And I remember being thinking I was the clever. I blew their minds. They thought I was the most amazing guy in the world for about 8 minutes, and it was all an elaborate ruse. Do you remember Walkmans, which had the a Walkman, which is like a cassette deck Walkman. This is pre-CDs even. So
who are you dealing with here? Of course I do. I
had a cassette deck Walkman, a Sony I think it was, and I put the
was it one of those newer ones with the yellow ones, or was it before that?
I think it was around. It might have been a yellow one. I think. Yeah. So I had the headphones, and what I did this really clever thing. So we had these pants that were they were urchin pants for Oliver, and so they were baggy. And I put it down in next to my cock, and I had the earphones out. And when I had this trigger, hey guys, check this out. It's so weird. I think I've got a radio dick. And they're like, what? Shut up. How? And then I said, check this out. And I held the earphones up, and I showed them the end of the earphones, and then I just stuck it down my pants. And then I go, oh my God, I can hear it. And then I give it to them, like, oh my God, it really is. And they I'd play stuff on from the radio on my Walkman, and they really thought for about 5 to 7 minutes that I had a radio dick.
Did you actually think you had a radio dick?
No,
as well?
I knew I didn't.
You were in on the joke.
Yes. And they were
well
like
played, sir.
They were like whooping and cheering, and their eyes were boggling, and they couldn't believe they'd never seen anything like it. It was definitely
or heard anything like it.
What's that?
or heard anything
No,
like
it was definitely one of my more elaborate ruses.
So instead of a Walkman, it would be a Discman.
Yes.
A Dixman.
A Dixman, yep.
Yeah.
The only thing on par with it, one of my other great elaborate ruses of all time, was at a school camp. There was a school camp on campus, on the actual school itself, at my alternative primary school. And I rigged this really tricky thing where I got out of my tent really late at night, and there was a girl sleeping. It was quite warm, so she was outside of the tent as well. There was a girl called Heidi, and this is pretty mean of me, but I actually got a little rope from my tent and wrapped it around the end of a small shrub tree, and so that if I yanked the rope, it would start moving the tree. And then I started making ooh noises and yanking the tree with the rope. So I was quite far away from it, so you couldn't see me. And she got up out of her sleeping bag and went white as a ghost, because it was a tree which actually had a dedication on the front, a plaque to a particular ex-teacher who had now passed away. So I was moving the tree. I had a plaque on it, and I was making woo noises, and she really thought it was a ghost for about 25 minutes. And I never told her that it was a ruse later on as well.
Were you in love with her? What was your agenda for terrifying her?
I just thought it would be cool to see if I could trick her into thinking that the tree was haunted. I thought it was. I wasn't a big fan of her work either, I don't think. But I was just being.
So you were bullying her. You weren't like.
I was being mischievous. I thought it'd be cool. It was a prank. It was a prank. I was playing a prank.
It'd be mischievous if you liked her. If you were like a friend.
No, it was a prank. It was a prank. Yeah, it was. But it was to this day. It strikes me as one of my better executed pranks, because again, But I do think when it comes down to it, kids are pretty gullible. I mean,
Well, I've done my top 10 Jews. Can you give me your top 10 pranks of all time?
Well, I just gave you number one. Well, these two would be right up there. In terms of other great pranks,
the dick man and the
and the moving shrub. With I shouldn't have been able to get away with the voice on that one. The woo, that should have been pretty obvious. I think that it wasn't, because I can't throw my voice. So I was I wasn't that close to it, but. Yeah, it's still quite an achievement. I was quite happy with it.
Pranks are so much cooler when you're a kid. Like, pranks are not considered very cool as an adult.
No, I haven't.
Unless they're really... You're like just Ashton Kutcher. You're just a massive dick if you're like...
You've been punked.
Tell you a prank that didn't work for me.
Yes.
Because my dad, quite an older dad, I was the second litter of kids. So he would have had me when he was... he was like 65 by the time I was 10. And that was when Mum died. And so he was very worried about his health, like looking after two young kids. And one day, because I heard his car come in, and I hid behind the door and opened the door. And he opened the door and went, boo! And he just fucking went white. And just... and like all the colour was out of his face. I was like, oh, sorry, Dad. And he just fucking yelled at me, like, Jonathan! It was not a good prank.
Sam used to go through a phase, my friend Sam, where his mum would come home and he'd like drop down with a noose around his neck and stuff like that. And she'd be like, ah! And like he'd just do all these death pranks where he's trying to kill himself or dying.
Just come gel his hair and have like have a fork in a toaster or something.
And she was very anxious already, his mother, and she was just absolutely losing her shit. She was like this really anxious hippie mum, and Sam thought it was really hilarious to fake death over and over when she came home. So you do have, and she was older too. I think the common denominator is she was older. But I think pranks. Generally speaking, I think pranks happen more at all boys' schools. Would you corroborate that? Was there a fair few at your all boys private school?
I got a prank played on me because I love my sister so much, and but I was a bit mean to her growing up, and then finally it turned, and the way it turned, she had this this is so mean what I used to do. She had this toy that she loved called I don't remember what it was called, but I called it Stinky Monkey, and there was this big monkey. I just ruined this toy for her. I was like,
Stinky Monkey. Ooh, Stinky Monkey.
Just ruined the fucking thing for her, it's like this toy that she loved. It was this big monkey, and it's called a Stinky Monkey. Anyway, I got into my room one day, and I would have been about 12 or something, and she had her friend Cara McDonald staying over, who was, in hindsight, probably pretty cute, but, as the older brother, you don't really notice the younger, but, later on she grew up to be pretty cute.
Okay, mate.
And she used to always wear sports girl. They used to always wear sports girl things. Anyway, I get into my room, and my bed fucking stinks. My bed fucking stinks. It smells really bad. And I smell around and stuff. And sure enough, I bought fart gas from like one of those novelty stores, you know, Granny May or something. Type of thing you never fucking open. But I bought it and the can was empty. And I was like, those fucking girls, they put fart gas all over my bed. And I went to Dad, and I think I was almost crying because I was pretty upset that, you know, that my bed stunk of farts. And I went to Dad and I told him, and he yelled at me and said, "Don't be ridiculous," because he in his imagination, I should have shown him the fart gas, but he was like, that doesn't exist. Fart gas doesn't exist. So they got me fucking good. They fucking, and that was her kind of rebellion. And from then on, we were even.
Because you called her monkey Stinky Monkey. That was her way of getting back at you.
I think so. Yeah, I think it came out. Yeah, I think she might.
She's
have...
like, "Oh, you want Stinky Monkey? I'll give you Stinky Monkey. Who's the Stinky Monkey now?" Did when you're looking in your room, you're like, "Oh, it stinks." Do you hear the ooh, 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 ooh in the background or anything like that?
I think
that
they
would
might
have been
have
a master class.
I think so. They were very mean about it. Like, they were just giggling.
Stinky Monkey stunk up your room. Very good. Very. What actually?
You really like
I'm getting
that,
a bit of a call
George.
here.
You really
there's
like
a call. There's a call.
Is there a call?
There's a call coming through, John. I'll just
not your
go
agent
grab the
again?
phone, and you might have to take this one, John.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, hello. Yes, I'm looking for I'm looking to speak to Georgie. It's Rupert from Riverview. Is that Georgie now? Am I speaking to Georgie?
This is his podcasting companion, Jono.
Right, Jono. Yeah. Okay, well,
What's your name,
I just want
sorry?
to speak to Georgie. Rupert from Riverview. I wanted to speak to Georgie because he's a very anti-elitist, and I think he gives private schools quite a rough sort of go a lot of the time, you know?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I've known him for a long time. I think he gives everyone a fair go. Well, he's not here right now. Can I take a message?
Well, I do like Georgie. I think he's, an interesting guy. He seems quite intelligent a lot of the time. But what I really wanted to talk about was something much closer to your heart, I think. And that's, well, I love WAP. I love WAP music. And I'm a very big fan of Kanye West. Do you like Kanye West?
Oh, yeah, I do. I do, Rupert. I'm a huge fan. I'm an apologist.
So what did you call me?
Sorry?
What did you call me? What did you say? What did you say my name was?
Rupert?
Yeah, Rupert.
That's
your
right.
Name,
is it?
Yeah, Rupert.
You just said Rupert. You just said it.
No, I didn't. No, mine's playing tricks on you. So, yes, I love Kanye West, but what's very interesting, and it's in the news right now, John, I love talking about WAP music. I love talking
do you like Dizzy Waskel?
Dizzy Waskel? I'm a big fan of Dizzy Waskel. But yeah, he's a bit too English for me.
What about the Whizzer?
Well, no, the thing is, I think Kanye West is a genius, like an actual genius. And what I like to say about Kanye West is it's very problematic when you're at the top end of the lines. You know what I mean? When you're at the top end of the food chain, people want to have a go at you all the time. It haters everywhere. And I just think he's such a genius, like an Oscar Wilde or a Johann Sebastian Bach. And, once upon a time...
One of the Jonas Brothers?
One of the Jonas Brothers. No, not like a Jonas brother at all. But what I think, it gets a really hard time, and it sort of resonates with me, because I feel like just because I'm at the top of the food chain, yes, I've been quite fortunate in some ways, and I'm very aware of that. I'm aware of my privs. Just because I've been very fortunate, it means people are always having a pot shot, there's haters everywhere. And that's the thing, I find Georgie does that quite a lot. He's always having a go at us. It's not my fault that I was lucky enough to go to college. It's not my fault that my father goes to Aspen. It's not my fault that my mother goes to ashrams for holidays. It's not my fault.
The double, the ashram double. Sorry.
Yes, well, no.
You're on a roll.
No, Aspen. I said Aspen for my father and ashram for my mother. But you see, the problem is that's almost like Kanye, wasn't I? Quite a lyricist myself. Actually, that does lead me to something.
Yes.
Sorry. I wonder. I know you're such a big fan of hip hop.
Yes.
And and you do love Kanye as much as I do.
Well,
actually, one thing before I go on, what did you think about what Kanye said about slavery being a choice?
Yeah, I would love to talk about it in detail. I've been just absolutely deep diving into all the Kanye stuff. I think my spin on it, actually, Rupert. It's hard to tell. I mean, he's off medication. He's had 2 years off. He said that he had a psychiatric. He's not calling it a breakdown, is it? He's calling it a breakthrough, his psychiatric time.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I think partially he's like that naughty boy. I think he's hanging out with his two kids, North, and I've forgotten his other kid. And I think, like Kanye gets so inspired that I think he's looking at them and he's saying kids don't have a filter.
Yeah.
And I'm getting this through his interviews too. So he's kind of getting a real kick out of, like, you know, saying in public, fuck. And, you know, that everyone looking around and then not getting into trouble about it, because with the Trump hat and with the slavery being a choice cause,
Yeah.
everyone else, when they make a statement like that, they immediately go on an apology tour. If they're not from the right don't. Whereas I think he's getting a real kick out of, I can say whatever I want and you'll still love me. He's daring people to love him like a child. That's my spin on it.
Like a child. You think so, huh?
Like a child. Well, he thinks, you know, the genius comes from a child, and he's also challenging. He's
Mozart.
not, he thinks he's a genius as well. I think
He is a genius
too.
He's a genius.
Yeah,
Everything
I
he
agree.
does is wonderful. And what the great thing he has is he's a lyricist, but he's a producer. You know, he can do everything. That's the thing about him. He can do it all.
I feel that Dorji doesn't feel that way. That's the thing. So I look forward to talking about Dorji with it. But I'm glad that you feel the same way as I do.
Do you know something?
You know,
I'm
he's
actually
trolling as well.
glad. I'm glad Georgie's not here, because he doesn't even understand any of these things. But you do. That's the
Fuck
great
that
thing
guy.
about you.
I agree. Yeah,
No,
thanks.
he
Thanks,
doesn't, and he's also anti-elitist, and he gives you a hard time about where you went to school. He gives anyone a hard time, and I just think he's a bit of a hater. He's just not very positive, you know. And if I went to college, so what? You know, so what?
I don't think Dorji's not a hater. He's definitely very positive. So I'm
Positive
not
about
gonna- I'm not
himself.
gonna throw him down.
Positive about himself and his own exploits. That's all he talks about. What have I done?
Hey,
Who
hang
have
on
I
a
been
second.
with? Blah blah blah. You know, just
No, he's very humble. But
where I grew up, you don't talk about those things.
Yeah.
You know, you keep humble, and more importantly, discretion is the better part of valor. That's what my father used to say.
But that's different to Kanye. How do you feel about Kanye? He said he was the greatest artist of his generation ever.
But
I think he said.
he's a genius. But he's a genius. Georgie's not a genius. He's an idiot. You know, Kanye West is incredibly talented, and Georgie's a failure at everything he's ever done, as far as I'm concerned. In comparison to Kanye, I mean, look at Kanye.
Did you see that the Crips have put out they're going to beat him up?
No, I heard about that. What do you think
Do you
about?
even know who the Crips are? I don't imagine you'd.
Yes,
mix
one of
with
them
him,
plays for Carlton. I've seen him play. He's quite a good player, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. That would be right. He would threaten to beat them up, because they're Neanderthals, those footballers.
Yes.
I only watch rugby union these days anyway.
fair
Anyway,
enough.
so on that note,
Yeah.
I've actually sent you a track, because I do trust your opinion very highly, Jono.
Thanks.
And I think it's important that I've put down something. I put down a little track myself, and I want to emulate my hero Kanye. And I like to talk about things like Australian history, like misconceptions. Like, obviously, you know, the Aboriginals I think they chose to be colonized. It was a choice, and it was obviously a choice. And the stolen generation was a choice. It was we chose. It wasn't a stolen generation.
You've lost me here.
It was a moving generation, and it was a wonderful thing we did for them. And I think we're working together, and we've worked together from the very beginning. But it's a perspective thing, it's subjectivity, and subjectivity is a big thing as far as I'm concerned. And perspective is, and that's what Kanye was talking about. And you might not agree with me, but you know, you don't have to agree with me. But what's most important is if you agree with my music. So if you have a little listen and let me know what you think, that'd be wonderful.
Okay. Well, very nice to meet you, Rupert. Yeah, I'll look
No,
forward to
I'm
the
still
listen.
here. I'm not going anywhere. Just put the music on and we'll have a listen.
Okay. How do I do that?
You need to go into your email. I sent it to your email and press open that little MP3 and I sent it to you.
You're not going anywhere, huh? Okay. I'd like to
I'm very
speak to
excited.
Georgie now. Oh, hang on. Here we go. Yeah, I'm excited too. Very exciting. This is a real place for rappers to just dump their new stuff. It's good.
Yeah, I like it. You know, it's becoming quite a hip hop channel, this one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think we should talk more about hip hop. It's good. So who else do you like? Do you like Wakewan from the Wu-Tang Clan?
Look, when it comes to Wu-Tang, I don't like it because people think that, you know, people always think, well, because my name's Rupert, that I should be in Wu-Tang. That was the joke. And I find that really offensive. You know, like,
So,
speech impediments aren't funny.
It's playing. It's playing.
Okay.
Mossman! Bow my wool! It's all good, baby. Come on. I'm Rupert from Riverview. Mistakes, yeah, I made a few. Malaysian Grand Prix. In my smugglers drank a shoey. Brought about a shitstorm worse than in fourth form. Set fire to PLC. Brought shame upon my family. Whip it, whip it, whip it, whip it out. Rupert. Crypto. Yeah, now I'm married a girl from Askham. I met her at an ashram. We're friends with Ben Lee. He was our celebrant, you see. Spiritually, we have an annual plan. Ayahuasca and Burning Man. We fly in my private jet. Only joking, it's a rental pad. Let me hear you say North Shore. North Shore. Let me hear you say, Eastern Suburbs! Eastern Suburbs! Whip it, whip it, whip it, whip it out. Whoa. In my first year at Macquarie Bank, my trust fund means my career can tank. St. John's College was quite the drag. I hated leaving Castle Quang. Yo, Tamawama. Yo, Woolawa. You ready for this? Yo, Bellevue Hill. Yeah. Bitcoin. Come on now.
Cryptocurrency.
Hell, you might think it sounds easy having all the privs, but my golf clubs won't swing themselves, and here's what gives. When you witch like Mr. West, there's expectations and tests. Everyone thinks you got it easy with your waps and their Yeezys, but one failure, you're a laughing stock. One misstep, the music stops. Stop! Acapella freestyle. But Kanye and I know the numbers just don't lie. Invest in our portfolio. Believe in tech. It's good, you know. From San Fran to Bond. I don't hate the world, just gentrify. Perspective is subjective. Intellect is defected and dejected. You end up hopeless and rejected. Yo, bring the beat back. Yeah, I'm Rupert from Riverview Mistakes. Yeah, I made a few, but when you do the math... Well, I own 3 houses. So I think it's pretty obvious who the winner is here. It's me. And Kanye.
Okay, yeah, whoa.
What do you think?
Who am I speaking to now?
Rupert, of course, it's Rupert from
Still,
Riverview.
you're still there. Mate, you're taking over the podcast. Mate, that was... I liked it a lot.
I didn't know how to finish it. That was the problem, isn't it? Yeah, didn't know how to finish.
Do you own quite a lot of crypto? You got into that early?
Look, I got in and I got out. Anyone that was intelligent got out a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, well, but I think it'll still go. That's great stuff, man. I think you're a rapper.
Do you think I have a future?
I think you've got a different... Well, I think you could work with Future. I think your production he'd suit you. You could have used some auto-tunes, I reckon. But my problem, Rupert, is I don't think you're the same as Kanye West. He was from a little bit of privilege. But, because, I think... But he had he was an only child of a single mother. But I think his dad was a Black Panther. So he came from quite a philosophical, and he was also African American, which makes him quite different to you as well. And his mum was a teacher, so he wasn't from like lower socio demographic. But he struggled quite a bit.
Yes, but that was a choice, surely. Wasn't a choice of his.
No, I don't think so.
Well, that way he could triumph.
I think,
he could triumph over everything. Listen, I'll stop you right there. John. I've appreciated your input, and it's been wonderful swapping ideas. But it's clear you actually don't know what you're talking about. Wonderful chatting. But perhaps I'll see you around next time you're in Sydney, maybe at Icebergs or something nice like that, and we could maybe catch up for a coffee.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, that'd be great.
Maybe play a round of golf, or perhaps, or we could. I'm a member of a club up here.
Okay, mate, I got to go. Thank you, though.
No problem.
I'm Jewish, Rupert, so I probably wouldn't be a member of that club.
Well, there's no problem at all. I've got a lot of friends that are Jewish, Mr. Gutnick and a few others, so nothing to worry about there. We'll work something out, don't you worry. All right, then, see you later. Okay, see you, goodbye.
Bye-bye. Oh, there you go.
Joe, it's a bad time to go to the toilet. What did I miss?
You missed a lot. You missed an absolute tosser called Rupert.
Right.
He called in. I thought I was liking him because he was pro Kanye West, who I obviously love as well.
You're a big fan.
But then I'm a huge fan. And he kind of then went a bit pear-shaped.
Ah.
But he was a bit of a twat actually.
Was he?
Twat.
Not a fan?
Yeah. Not a fan. But what do you think about the whole Kanye West thing, George?
What Kanye West thing?
Oh, he's been destroying internet and Twitter because he got with he wore a MAGA, Make American Great hat again, and just kind of like said some controversial things.
Yeah,
just mouthed off. But he's not a politician. He's a celebrity, so he should be allowed to say stuff.
Yeah, I mean the issue is, as you know, Jono, we elevate these people in certain positions, and suddenly their opinions are supposed to matter, but they don't really matter. They're just people with a lot of issues.
Yeah.
A lot of social conditioning, and I think politicians, if they say things, it probably matters. I think high court judges, if they say things in the sphere of the courts, it probably matters. But if your job isn't...
But artists, he's a great artist, so when artists say things, it matters.
Well,
poets are kind of got...
Not if no one consumes it. If a tree
he's a poet.
If a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to view it, But yeah, I mean, he does have a lot of reach, I guess, a lot of fans, and I suppose you're right. You could argue, therefore, that he's his voice is going to be heard way more than other people's voices. Therefore, it matters what he says. But
people are deeply disappointed because the people that loved him are really disappointed in him. Do you know? There was a really funny. Will I Am?
Not personally.
From the Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
He's like now. He did a really angry talk to camera, and he's just really pissed off because he was going on like Piers Morgan's got a show now because he's not on CNN anymore. He's on in England. He's got a show, and he was meant to go and talk about like The Voice and his new projects. But he just asked him about Kanye West, and it ate up, his 5 minutes on camera. And like he's just like, man, I was gonna. He just doesn't talk to camera. He goes, I was gonna stay quiet, man, but you're affecting my work. I was meant to be talking about something else, and they asked me about you, and you're affecting my work, bruh. And that hurts me, bruh. and then I watch the thing, and you watch him like answer about Kanye West, and then you see when Piers says, really sorry, Will I Am. That's all we've got time for, but I'm sure, it was worthwhile talking about Kanye West. And you just see him, he gets really stroppy. You can just see him roll his eyes. And that's what made him talk, not about that, his great-grandmother, he said, was a slave. It was just he wasn't able to plug The Voice.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, you can do what you want, but yeah, if I can't plug my program, you're taking things too far. Much too far.
It's really funny. It's worth a look. And then there's a really funny Kanye West one where TMZ stops him on the street when he's walking with two guys, and like he kind of thinks he's Jesus at the moment. Kanye, like he's all about love.
At the moment, he's been doing it for a long time now.
Yeah, he has. But he hugs him. He goes, hey man, do you have a family? And he's like, yeah, Kanye, I got a couple of kids. He's like, yeah, do people have a go at you for being paparazzi and stuff? He's like, yeah, sometimes, Kanye. He's like, that's okay, brah. Give me a hug. Is it all right if I hug you, brah? I love you, brah. And then he goes, can we use this? And like you see the paparazzi guys, like he thought he's saying put his camera down. He goes, no, man, put your camera up. Can we use this? Can you show this? So he's just showing himself, just loving everyone. It's clever. Like it's hard. It's going to be hard to, apart from whether or not you think he's a dick. His message at the moment is just love everyone. So he's saying, love Kim Jong-un, love Trump, love, man.
So what? No, I'm not familiar. What is his actual? What is the bulk of his argument in relation to slavery? Can you encapsulate it?
He's saying that we're in a simulation. He's into that kind of thing. It's pretty crazy talk that like this is not real, and that he thinks that we're still black people are enslaved now, and that it offended everyone because he said slavery went for 400 years. Well, the slavery that was called ended slavery when slavery was ended, and he said that sounds like a choice if you were in it for 400 years. It's the same as like when Jews talk about Nazi Germany, saying like, why didn't you fight more? It sounds like, you didn't. But yeah, and he's saying break free. And he's coming from, an incredibly privileged position. There was a really good, he went on, he's quite unhinged, and so therefore incredible to watch because it's a bit like the Charlie Sheen thing. You're watching him kind of like in real time just make some pretty out there decisions. And he went into the TMZ office and got interviewed by these two guys and then like stood up and demanded everyone in the office listen to him. He reminded me of Ron Artest when he won a championship. He's like, pay attention to me. Yeah. Like even in a room with, like if there's 60 people, he wants them all looking at him. And then one of the TMZ, after he said the slave thing, because he said that to them, and he also said, he admitted to them that he had liposuction, and the reason he met with Trump the first time was he was heavily medicated, and that he's not as medicated now, but he still takes a little bit just so he doesn't... Like, he was talking about that sort of stuff. And then he also said, when they talked about the Crips putting a hit out on him, he said, no, they don't want to kill me. They just want to beat me up. And he, like, laughs about it. And he says, that means that they love me because they're just like a bigger brother. They just want to just beat me up a little, like, teach me a lesson. And then this...
And who are the Crips?
The Crips are... there's two gangs, the Bloods and the Crips in Los Angeles, that fight for territory, and the Crips wear blue and the Bloods wear red. And Suge Knight was a big member of the Bloods, the guy that used to represent Death Row Records. Yeah. But one of the guys who works at TMZ then really took issue with Kanye and started yelling back at him. And then Kanye kind of apologized to him and gave him a hug. He's all about hugging people. He likes hugging people at the moment and sending love. I love Kanye. I think he's a good guy, and I love his music. I'm just not. I'm not triggered by him. I'm not offended by him. But yeah, that's offensive stuff that he's saying. But
probably
I just wonder whether or not
the less things that he's saying which are more that are offensive to you than I'm sure if you started speculating on the Holocaust a little bit, you'd probably feel possibly a bit more triggered.
Fair call, Dodge. That's true. But I do know that argument about the Holocaust as well, yeah, which I disagree with. But I mean, it's an argument that people make. So yeah, but I just wonder what his intentions are. Is it that he wants to just like, is he the kid in the room that just wants to say whatever he wants to say and then likes the attention? Is he running for president? Is he trying to? He's apparently got 5 albums coming out in the next year.
Jeez.
Yeah. So is he just working on that, or is he unhinged? Like this, it's pretty fascinating.
And we won't know, and it will unfold before our very eyes, and we'll keep you updated on this podcast.
Oh, don't you remember the days of the old school quadrangle or oval or whatever it was?
What the fuck happened there? I hit the wrong fucking chord, man. But while we go to wrap up, you mentioned, is he a kid? Do you want to leave us with any final thoughts of what life was like for the small Jono Burns growing up?
It was pretty idyllic in Williamstown. My sister and I was the head of a gang, the adventure team at Williamstown Primary. I used to convince my fellow gang members that there were spies. No, bikies were trying to kill my cats.
Bloods.
And I used to... Bloods and Chris. And I used to pretend that my cats were bionic cats. So I had a vivid imagination, or I was just a liar. No, that'll do it, really. What about you? I think our childhood's such a big part. We're still in arrested development very much, so I think we constantly talk about our childhood. So let's not end it here, old friend.
I think for me, being sort of mixed race and growing up in all these spots in 80s and 90s Australia and very short periods of time, I often was on the outer. I found, like a lot of immigrant kids or offspring of immigrants, that sport was the great unifier growing up in Australia. So I found if I got decent at cricket or football, took a great mark, took a great catch, played well, generally speaking, the respect for me would go up in any area. So that became an in. But also, I also stopped trying. I didn't try very much. Trying was very difficult. So I would then seek refuge in books. So I was reading a lot and then playing sport with the 2 double whammies. And that sort of unified me through all of my primary school education. I'm not sure. It probably had a big impact on who I became. And I'm still love sports, and I still don't read. I don't read anymore. I did a lot of reading back then, that's for sure. But it definitely fostered for me a deep interest in the world around me.
When are you going to read a book again? When are you going to pick up a book again? We'd love that.
That's just time. It's funny you mentioned that.
You just go, I'm never going to read another book.
What I used to love, in particular, one of my things that got me into books, I'm not sure, I was speculating about this with Georgina, was Pick a Path. Do you remember Choose Your Own Adventure and Pick a Path books? Do you remember?
You still love those. Yeah.
Right? And so you remember you get those little, we used to get these little book sleeves where you could select which books you wanted to get each week, book club type things. And
we used to do that too.
Yeah, I used to look forward to that so much, and the Pick a Paths the Choose Your Own Adventures were my go-tos for a long time. And I used to definitely cheat a little bit. Like I'd go down one path and hold the page and go back because I didn't like where it went. But I was very much into it, and I was speculating that, or ruminating on the fact that I'm going through a bit of a gaming phase. I'm really enjoying adventure games because I played GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto, for the first time at 38 years of age, and I really enjoyed it. And to me, it's very much like a Pick a Path game, which later became Dungeons and Dragons for me and other role-playing games. But it's it's a whole world that you're in, and whichever path you go down, you seem to have the freedom to explore it, and there's a narrative which unfolds. So yeah, right now I suppose.
You could just say life is like that. If you don't have your nose in a book or in a,
but it's
life
real.
Is choose your own adventure.
But it's real, so you can't.
Yeah, get in the real world, mate.
But what's great about games and books is that when things go pear shaped, as the expression used before, when things go badly, you can just save it and go back and try something else. But in life, when things go badly, it can be a bit of a real pain in the bum.
They're worried about this new generation that they just think that life is like a video game. They're just dying all the time.
What do you mean dying all the time?
They're just dying. Like they're just they're just driving their car and they think they're in Grand Theft Auto, so they just start driving on the nature strip and just cleaning people up, and then
I'm going to be honest with you. It has affected me. Like on my bike, I started riding over footpaths and stuff like that and doing illegal things which I would never have thought of doing until I played GTA 5 for the first time. And I've started looking at cars. I haven't thought about stealing them, but I'm definitely riding more dangerously as well. I think I'm like a real daredevil now, and it is definitely, I think, a blurring of the lines between the game and life. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy in Norway that killed all those people, he just spent I think, 5 days locked in a room playing video games, it does desensitize you a bit.
Yeah, there is that concern. I think, especially, don't forget, this is the other thing we're learning more and more when you look at people like Darren Brown. And some people are more suggestible than others. And if you're naturally suggestible, like I think you and I are, John, for example, I match accents when I'm speaking to someone from a different country very quickly. That's how suggestible I am.
I love that about you. That's what Tim Burns does as well.
It's bad. It's
funny because people think you're taking the piss out of them, but you're not. You're just you're just trying to relate to them.
Just trying to relate really, really.
How is
badly.
Tim Burns? Did they talk about the podcast at Poker?
Yes, there was, and a couple of jokes Tim Burns unfurled. I'll probably finish on this note because we're running out of time. First one is we're playing poker, happily away, and he just says, does anyone need a vacuum cleaner? And there's a bit of science, and Jim goes, oh, I could use one. What's it like? And goes, oh, yeah, pretty good, but it just needs to go. I mean, it's just sitting there gathering dust. Cute,
not that good.
Cue laughter. It's still delivery's not good. But this one's I think this one's not too bad. Playing poker, he said that, so there's this lady, and she's sitting on a park bench, and she's very melancholy, just staring forward, mouth open, very depressed. And a man walks past and says, plethora. And she says, thanks. It means a lot.
That joke's getting around. Old School told me that joke, and he said he made it up.
Always lying.
How rude's that?
He's lying.
Well, Nettie, the vice principal at the school, this lovely 65-year-old woman who got flowers from her husband today for their 48-year marriage anniversary.
Yeah.
She told me that joke. It was in the Herald Sun. And I was like, well, which one is it, Old School? So that joke's getting around. I've heard that joke 3 times. I heard it at a funeral. Someone says, do you mind if I say a word?
Yes.
He gets up and he says, plethora. And she says, thanks, that means a lot. Which I think is quite good because then it's a double joke because he's he gets up and says, can I say a word?
Yes.
Plethora. You're like, that's funny.
Yes.
And then boom. It's a joke on a joke.
Well, Doc told it to 4 people during the week after last week's poker game, and he said none of them knew what plethora meant.
Oh, well, Doc's not, probably doesn't hang with the smartest people. Doesn't he just play bowls with them? Doc is this great curmudgeon at poker who's probably, 64? And he plays bowls once a week against 90-year-olds and gets really excited when he
cleans
wins
them up. Clean them up again, boys. Another big win.
He's a ripper. Well, PJ from Poker's coming to Melbourne this weekend.
Yes.
I'm going to take him to the footy.
That'd be great. Well, give us an update on how that goes. But I think on that note, on the big weekend of football ahead and times with PJ, we're going to have to wrap up because we're well over the 2-hour mark. Jono, can you take us away and finish up another wonderful week of Full Disclosure?
Well, just super excited to have another guest on today. Quite a highfalutin character that loves Kanye West. I love Kanye West too. It was interesting to talk about that. We'll be talking about that more in the future, I'm sure. And also, George did sneak into Melbourne a couple of weeks ago, so we've got to debrief that in the next episode too. But yeah, really excited to also tell you how school camp went with the delinquents. Big love, everyone.
Peace out.
I said something weird then. I was like...
Yeah. Coming to you every week from Sydney and Melbourne. It's Full Disclosure. The Jono and Dorj podcast. Jono and Dorj. Full disclosure in the raw.